Why you'd struggle to survive a Viking raid introduction. Imagine living in a quiet village in Europe around the year 800. Life is simple. You farm, trade, or fish, and your biggest worry is the next harvest. Then, one foggy morning, longships with dragon-shaped prows appear on the horizon. Vikings, fierce warriors from Scandinavia, are coming to raid your village. Surviving a Viking raid was incredibly hard, and this history explains why. From their brutal tactics to the lack of defenses in most villages, we'll explore the reasons you'd struggle to survive a Viking attack, using simple and easy words. Who were the Vikings? The Vikings were people from modern-day Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, who lived between the 8th and 11th centuries. They were skilled sailors, warriors, and traders who traveled across Europe, and even as far as North America and Asia. While some Vikings settled peacefully or traded goods, others were known for their terrifying raids. These attacks targeted villages, monasteries, and towns, often for gold, food, or slaves. Vikings were fearless and well-trained. They believed dying in battle was honorable and would send them to Valhalla, a paradise in their mythology. This made them bold and willing to take huge risks, which gave them an edge over unprepared villagers. Why were Viking raids so dangerous? Viking raids were sudden, violent, and well-planned, making survival a huge challenge. Here are the main reasons why. 1. Surprise attacks. Vikings were masters of surprise. Their longships were fast and could sail up rivers or land on beaches, letting them strike deep inland without warning. They often attacked at dawn or under cover of fog, catching villagers asleep or unprepared. By the time anyone realized what was happening, the Vikings were already charging through the village with axes and swords. If you were in a coastal or riverside village, you had little time to react, and running away was often your only hope. But even that was tough. 2. Brutal fighting skills. Vikings were expert warriors. They trained from a young age to use weapons like axes, swords, spears, and shields. Their fighting style was fast and aggressive, designed to overwhelm enemies quickly. They used a shield wall tactic, standing shoulder to shoulder with shields locked to form a barrier, making it nearly impossible for untrained villagers to fight back. Most people in medieval villages weren't warriors. Farmers, monks, or craftsmen had little to no training and only basic tools, like pitchforks or knives, to defend themselves. Facing a Viking with a sharp axe and years of battle experience was like bringing a stick to a sword fight. You'd be lucky to last a minute. 3. No strong defenses. Most villages in early medieval Europe had no real defenses. Wooden palisades or low walls, if they existed, were easy for Vikings to climb or burn. Monasteries, which were common targets because they held gold and treasures, often had no walls at all. Castles and stone fortifications came later, so in the early Viking Age, around 793–900, most places were wide open to attack. Even if a village had a few guards, they were no match for a Viking warband, which could number from 20 to 100 warriors. Without proper walls, weapons, or trained fighters, your chances of holding off an attack were slim. Speed and mobility. Vikings didn't stick around long. Their raids were lightning fast. Strike, grab loot, and leave before anyone could organize a defense. Their longships could carry them away quickly, loaded with stolen goods or captives. If you tried to hide, they'd find you. If you tried to fight, they'd overpower you. And if you ran, their ships could chase you along the coast or river. Their speed made escape nearly impossible. 5. Fear and panic. Vikings used fear as a weapon. They were known for their brutal reputation. Stories of burned villages and slaughtered people spread fast. When they attacked, the sight of their dragon-headed ships and bloodthirsty warriors sent villagers into panic. People would freeze, flee in chaos, or surrender out of terror. This fear made it harder to think clearly or organize any kind of defense, leaving you vulnerable. What happened during a Viking raid? To understand why survival was so hard, let's walk through a typical raid. Picture a small coastal village in England, around 793, like Lindisfarne, one of the first places Vikings attacked. The attack begins before dawn. Viking longships silently approach the shore. The warriors leap out, armed with axes, swords, and round wooden shields painted with bright colors. They move quickly, shouting war cries to scare everyone. The village wakes to screams and the sound of breaking wood as Vikings smash through doors. Looting and destruction. Vikings targeted anything valuable: gold, silver, food, livestock, or even people to sell as slaves. Monasteries were prime targets because they held religious treasures like jeweled crosses or silver chalices. The Vikings would tear through buildings, grabbing everything they could carry. They'd set fire to houses or barns to cause chaos and stop anyone from fighting back. Violence and captives. If you resisted, you'd likely be killed. Vikings didn't hesitate to cut down anyone in their way, whether men, women, or even children. Those who weren't killed might be taken as slaves, dragged to the ships in chains. Some survivors were left with nothing: no home, no family, no hope. The escape within hours, the Vikings would be gone, sailing away with their loot. The village would be left in ruins, with smoke rising from burned homes and survivors mourning their losses. If you survived, you'd face starvation or homelessness, with no guarantee the Vikings wouldn't return. Famous Viking raids. Some raids show just how devastating these attacks could be. Lindisfarne, 793. Vikings attacked a holy monastery in England, killing monks, stealing treasures, and shocking Europe. This raid marked the start of the Viking Age. Paris, 845. Vikings sailed up the Seine River and besieged Paris, forcing the French king to pay a huge ransom to make them leave. Dublin, 837. Vikings raided Ireland, capturing people to sell as slaves and establishing a base that became a major city. These raids weren't just about stealing. They showed the Vikings' power and spread fear across Europe. Why you'd struggle to survive. If you lived in a village during a Viking raid, here's why you'd face a tough fight to stay alive. No warning. With no way to know a raid was coming, you'd be caught off guard. Vikings planned their attacks to hit when defenses were weakest, like during festivals or early mornings. You'd have no time to prepare or hide your valuables. Outmatched in combat, even if you were brave enough to fight, you'd be facing warriors who lived for battle. Your farming tools or hunting knife couldn't compete with a Viking's sharp sword or heavy axe. Plus, their numbers and teamwork made them unstoppable. Nowhere to run, fleeing was hard. Villages were often isolated, and running into the woods or fields meant leaving everything behind. Vikings were skilled trackers and could chase you down. If you lived near a river or coast, their ships made escape even harder. Aftermath struggles. Even if you survived the raid, life afterward was brutal. With your home burned, food stolen, and family gone, you'd face starvation or capture by other enemies. Rebuilding was nearly impossible without help. How people tried to survive. Some people did survive Viking raids, but it took luck and strategy. Hiding. Some villagers fled to forests or marshes, hoping the Vikings wouldn't find them. Paying ransom. Wealthy towns sometimes paid Vikings to leave, though this didn't always work. Building defenses. Later in the Viking Age, people built stone walls or watchtowers to spot ships early. Fighting back. A few brave leaders, like King Alfred of England, organized armies to resist. But this was rare. The end of the Viking raids. By the late 11th century, Viking raids became less common. Christianity spread in Scandinavia, and many Vikings settled down as farmers or traders. Stronger kingdoms in Europe built better defenses, like castles, and raised armies to fight back. The Viking Age faded, but its impact lingered in stories of terror and bravery. Conclusion: surviving a Viking raid was a near-impossible challenge. Their speed, skill, and brutality, combined with the lack of defenses in most villages, left little chance for survival. Whether you tried to fight, flee, or hide, the odds were against you. The Viking raids remind us of a time when fear ruled and survival depended on luck and courage. They also show how human strength and resilience eventually overcame even the fiercest threats, shaping a stronger Europe in the centuries that followed.